And did you start a local school, or was it a Jewish school?
No, it was a local school, about a kilometer or 2 kilometers away. The 13th Volksschule, that's the 13th primary school, which is not Jewish at all, it was a local one, where I went for 4 years. And in fact, I have a photograph of the first class when I was about 6, where I was very happy. And I can tell you straight away that I had no anti-Semitism in that school, either from children or from any of the teachers, with one exception. There was one boy in my class who would have classed as an Aryan, very blonde and blue eyes, and a bit outspoken, but quite a pleasant boy. I wasn't particularly close to him, but we were on talking terms. And one day, when I was about 7 or 8 perhaps, I'd gone home by myself, and as soon as I got home, my mother sent me out to fetch some mincemeat from the local butcher. And as I went from the home to the butcher, this other boy, and 2 or 3 others were still coming from school, and we met. And we stopped to exchange a few pleasantries, and this fair-haired boy said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm fetching some mincemeat from my mother." Now, the German for mincemeat is Hackefleisch. And he promptly plastered me one on my cheek. And he said, "There is your Backefleisch." Backe is the cheek. And he was very quick, I must admit. But he thought he'd swipe me one across the face. Now, it hurt, but it hurt me more to think that for no reason whatsoever, and I assume it's because I was Jewish and heard his parents talk about the Jews, that he thought he'd get his peneth in and do that. That was the only bit of anti-Semitism during those 4 years at my school. Indeed, the masters, the teachers, sometimes went out of their way to be kind to me, I must say, even up to the time that I left when I was 10.
And were you aware at all of listening to Hitler on the radio, or seeing any parades in the streets?
I didn't hear anybody on the radio. In fact, we got a radio fairly late on when we lived in Berlin. It was a new thing, and when we eventually did get a radio, I was probably 8 or 9, but I certainly wasn't interested in politics. But what frightened me was the occasional marches of SS and SA men along the main road near where we lived, who were marching along, sometimes singing ferocious songs. They frightened me no end, although they were marching in the street and didn't attack anybody on the pavement. But that was a frightening experience. Another I'm jumping ahead a bit now, slightly frightening experience was when I went to the Jewish school after the primary school, where I had to catch a train, the local train. And as it was a Jewish school, there were no lessons on Saturday, but there were lessons on a Sunday. And as I went through the ticket barrier with my satchel on my back, having gone through, the ticket collector asked me to come back and said, "Hey, just a minute. Where are you going?" he said. Now, I knew immediately what was going to happen next. I said, "I'm going to school." So he said, "Only Jews go to school on a Sunday." But then he didn't do anything else and let me go, as it were. But that was the beginning of the overt anti-Semitism of the times.
So we'd be talking there about, is it 35, 36?
Yes, 35, 36, yes.
Did you hear your parents, or did you feel any atmosphere in the house, disquiet from your parents?
Not at all. My parents continued their visits to concerts, to the theatre, to the cinema. Well, cinema was in its infancy. They didn't go all that frequently to the cinema. But life continued. Their best friends were, in fact, non-Jewish. The lady of this couple taught me to play the piano. That's where the piano came in. Her husband was a judge in the finance department of the income tax authorities. So they were a very high animal, and they were certainly not Nazis, and they were my parents' best friends. They had 3 sons, of whom 2 died fairly young, but the third one still lives in Munich today, and I'm in, I won't say constant touch, but certainly in touch with him.